Greetings, Nick with Sweetwater here, and in today's video we're going to be taking a quick look at the upgraded BOSS Katana MkII combos, head and cabinet, with my main focus being on the 100-watt Artist MkII head here and the 2x12 Waza loaded cabinet. This compact powerhouse half stack right here. Now I could easily make a 30 to 40 minute video on the BOSS Katana Artist MkII head alone, as it sounds and feels great. It's incredibly versatile, it's easy to use, and it's also the first artist head to ever join the incredible popular Katana line. Oh yeah, and in case I forgot to mention it, it sounds great and it's fun to play too. That said, ever since BOSS unleashed the first series of Katana amps way back in late 2016, the line has been a bestseller. And the same was also true for the MkII series of Katanas, which hit the streets in late 2019. And now we're on the second version of the MkII line. So, unless you've just landed on this planet, in which case, welcome, I'm 99.9% certain you're pretty darn familiar with the ever-evolving BOSS Katana family and how the amp works. Before we quickly go over the features of this fine 100-watt half stack here though, let's quickly answer a nagging question. What on earth does the word katana mean anyway? And the answer is simply this, my friend. Katana is the name of the traditional sword carried by the legendary samurai warriors. Furthermore, it's a symbol of honor, precision and artistry in Japanese culture. And there you have it. The half stack to my left consists of the 100-watt Katana Artist MkII head sitting on top of a 2x12 Waza extension cabinet specifically designed to complement it both visually and tonally. To be specific, the Katana cabinet contains two specially designed Waza speakers which have been painstakingly voiced to sound like those glorious vintage Celestion 25-watt greenbacks of yesteryear. So, why don't BOSS just use two Celestion greenback speakers, do I hear you indignantly cry? Because, my friend, 25 plus 25 equals 50, and the Katana Artist head is a 100-watt beast. That's why, do the math! To this end, each Waza speaker is rated at 80 watts, making it a 160-watt cabinet. Now, this cabinet is closed-backed, but you can remove the back's middle board to convert the cabinet to open-backed if you so wish. I've left it on, because that's the way I roll. Let's take a quick tour of the head's front panel, shall we? Now, at first sight it might seem a little bit intimidating due to the fact it houses 11 control knobs, 2 of which are concentric, effectively making that total 13. And it also boasts a total of 16 switches, including 1 5-way switch and no fewer than 7 3-way switches as well. That said, it's surprisingly intuitive. It must be. After all, I've learned how to use it without the use of a manual, YouTube, or another human being. And, as has always been the case with Katana amps, you can download BOSS's Tone Studio editing software, which is totally free, by the way. Now, Tone Studio not only allows you to deep edit all the effects, it also allows you to save your patches into a library and access free downloadable ones from a place known as Tone Central 2. Nice! Now, going across the panel from left to right, we have the following, and if you're familiar with the Katana line, much of this will indeed be deja vu. First, there's obviously the input jack. Then we have the amplifier section, which consists of 3 knobs and a mini switch. The first knob is a 5-way amp switch selector, which goes acoustic, clean, crunch, lead, and brown, respectively, as you turn it clockwise. And each amp type has its own bright red LED, so you have no doubt as to which one you've selected. Check it out. Yeah, that's really handy. Then directly above this 5-way switch is the variation LED button switch, expands your amp type selections from 5 to 10, just like on the first batch of Katana MkIIs. And when the variation switch is activated, the red LED switch on it glows bright red. Dun dun dun! And Just so you know, the acoustic setting isn't an acoustic emulation for electric. It's for use with an acoustic guitar, one with a pickup of some sort, of course. Think of a BOSS acoustic singer combo and you'll get the picture. As for the other 4 voicings, they're purely, you'll be glad to hear, just for electric and electric only. Clean is a nice hybrid of a Roland jazz chorus and an EL34 powered British blues style jangly clean. Let's check it out quickly. Not too shabby, right? Despite the playing. As for the crunch setting, well, that heads into pushed Marshall JCM 800 territory and responds really well to picking nuances. At lower gain settings, you get this. Well, something like it. While at a high gain setting on the same channel, you get something like this. And I better stop there or I'm going to play the whole darn song. As for the lead channel, it's got a definite Marshall/5150 vibe. Check it out. As for the last amp type, brown, well, that's a very apt name for it because it's got a high gain 5150/British tone with a variac sagging the voltage a little as well, just for good measure. Check it out. Ooh, that was sloppy, but you get the picture. And don't forget, there's also the variation switch, so you've got another 5 to choose from as well. Very nice. The other 2 controls in the amplifier section are pretty self-explanatory, as they are gain and volume respectively. Got it? Next up is another pretty self-explanatory trio of knobs in the equalizer section. These controls are labeled, wait for it, bass, middle and treble. Any questions? Yeah, I didn't think so. Next up is the effects section, which consists of 3 controls, the first 2 of which are 2-in-1 concentric affairs, giving us 5 controls in total. And right above them are 5 LED button switches labeled from left to right, boost, mod, effect, delay, and reverb. And just like the original Katana MkIIs, you can have up to 5 of the amp's built-in BOSS effects running at any one time. Here's 4 in action: overdrive, phase, delay, and reverb. As per usually in the Katana family, each of these 5 LED effects buttons have 3 colors they cycle through as you press them: green, red, and orange, just like this. And as you also know from previous Katana models, each color represents a different type of the effect in question. So in the case of modulation, for example, when the amp leaves the factory, they're set to the following in Bank A. Green is chorus, red is phase, and orange is flange. Unless, of course, you decide to change them, which you can easily do, like I've already said, via the free BOSS Tone Studio software. We've already heard the chorus and phaser, so let's quickly check out the flanger, shall we? Once again, not shabby. And just so you know, the 3 out-of-the-box Bank A boosts are as follows. Green is blues drive, red is overdrive, and orange is distortion. And just so you know, there are no fewer than 23 flavors of boost you can choose from via the Tone Studio software, including treble boost, 60s fuzz, metal zone, and one called T-Scream. I wonder what pedal that one emulates. And once again, you can assign whichever ones you wish to green, red, and orange in both banks via the free software. Here's a moderate gain setting on the lead amp type being front-ended with the Blues Drive boost option with just a smattering of the Katana's built-in plate reverb and tape echo. Next up we come to the tone setting area, which houses a row of 6 button LED switches and 3 controls. Let's deal with the trio of controls first. They are as follows: presence, master volume, and solo. The first two are pretty self-explanatory, and so is the new solo control as well, I guess. As I'm sure you've already surmised, the control allows you to set a different volume level so I can use it as, wait for it, a solo boost. I can switch this in and out via the front panel switch, and as you'd hope and expect, I can also foot switch it too. To do the latter, all you do is the following. You plug a BOSS foot switch into the solo jack on the back panel, and you can switch it via a bad boy like this with a mere tap of your foot. Very nice indeed. And as you can hopefully see, the red LED on the switch below the solo control lights up when the sucker is activated. Nice. Let's quickly check it out. Dun dun dun. This control can only be found on the artist models, by the way. And just so you know, if you hook up the Tone Studio software, you can also set up a different EQ for the solo switch as well, which engages every time you activate said switch. That's pretty cool. As for the LED push switches above the controls, as per the usual Katana MO, the 4 labeled channels 1 through 4 allow you to store settings you'd like to the amp's memory and then recall them via your finger or via a BOSS GA-FC or GAFC EX foot switch, just like the one I've got on my hands right here. As for the button labeled panel, wait for it, that selects however the amp's front panel is set up at that exact moment in time. Makes sense? Pretty obvious. The button labeled bank on the left-hand side of this row of buttons is a new one exclusive to the artist amps that lets you switch between banks A and B, thus giving you instant access to 8 channels in total. And when bank B is selected via said button, the button glows red just like this. This is also foot switchable, by the way, which is a nice tool.
Huh? Oh, the English idiot forgot to tell you how to store a sound, so I will. It's really easy. Once you've dialed in a tone you like, all you do is this. You hold down the button of the channel you want to store it on until the other channel buttons light up and blink and it's done. Easy. That sound is saved on that channel and will be there until you change it.
Next to this is another section unique to the Katana artist amps, the tone shape area. This consists of a global EQ LED button switch and also a rotary contour switch as well. Both have 3 settings, 4 if you include off. The settings on the global EQ are as follows: green, red, and orange. Check it out. Green, red, orange, and off. 4 in total. The contour switch offers you 3 different contour characteristics, simply labeled 1, 2, and 3. And, as always, by utilizing Tone Studio, you can fine-tune each one of these 3 contours to your heart's content, as each one has 4 types to choose from, plus a frequency shift as well. I like it. Anyway, these 2 tone shape options are there in case you find a room is, say, too dark or too boomy, and you'd like to readjust the overall tone of your amp without having to go in and individually reprogram each and every one of your saved presets. A simple but very neat and practical idea, which I love. In fact, for the video room we're shooting in right now, I like the combination of the orange global EQ and contour number 1 from my presets, which I'd programmed in another room which sounded completely different. Saved me a lot of time. up, we have one of the coolest Katana features in my humble opinion, the power control switch. This allows you to select either 100 watts, 50 watts, or a bedroom and family-friendly 0.5 watts. This means you can crank the master volume up and get all those desirable power amp nuances without your neighbors calling the cops on you, yet again. And incidentally, if you're thinking 0.5 watts sounds wimpy, think again, my friend, think again. When you crank the master on this sucker, it's anything but wimpy, I guarantee you, especially with the Waza speaker-loaded cabinet I'm using. Oh yeah, and when you turn the power control fully clockwise, it goes into muted standby mode, which is great for things such as performing silent guitar changes on stage. I guarantee your bandmates and your audience will thank you for that one. And last, but certainly not least, there's a 3-way cabinet resonance switch, which, wait for it, modifies the resonance of the speaker cabinet. This once again is only offered on the artist models and gives you the following options: vintage, modern, and deep. Here's the deep setting with the guitar tuned down to drop C. So let's do a magical digital guitar change, shall we? Yeah, I think that was pretty deep. Not the playing though, but the sound. And there you have it, my friend. That's the front panel features done and dusted. So let's take a very quick gander at the Katana Artist Head's rear panel, shall we? In addition to the usual suspects, namely speaker output jacks, an auxiliary input jack, send and return jacks for the effects loop, power amp in jack, foot control jacks, a USB port for tone studio use or recording purposes, and a line-out jack, the Artist Head also has the following as well. A MIDI in jack. Yep, this beast can be controlled by MIDI if you're that way inclined. 2 airfield switches on the line-out jack. The first one has 3 options: an emulation of a distantly mic'd studio sound, a close mic live sound, or a blend of the two. The second 3-way switch is a custom one. When it's off, the airfield is the one you selected with the first switch. The other 2 options on the custom switch are M1 and M2, and they're ones you can set up as you wish via the Tone Studio software. And then last, but certainly not least, we have this, a stereo expand switch. This lets you connect 2 Katana MkII units so they work together in true stereo. Very neat indeed. And to close this all up, I guess I have to give you a very quick peek of BOSS's free Tone Studio software, as I've mentioned it a bunch of times in the video already. So let's cut to that, shall we? So here we are in the BOSS Tone Studio for the Katana MkII, which is downloaded for free, as I've mentioned several times, from the BOSS site. Now, you must remember, you've also got to download the USB driver, the correct one, which will enable your computer to see the head. Then you just hook the head up to your computer via a printer cable of all things, and you are rocking. That said, let's get into it. As we can see on the left here, this is what I've programmed into my Katana. So if I go to A channel 2, for example, which is called Angus Approved, there are my settings. I'm on the crunch channel, and I'm using just a smattering of reverb. And that's pretty much as simple as it gets. I can name these, as you can see. I can select them and see exactly what I've got. So now let's go across these buttons here and see what we've got. First up, when I press effects, I get this, which are my banks for the booster, the mod, the effects, and delay, and reverb. And what's cool about these is I can pull down a menu and I can change whatever is in the whatever color I'm using. For example, if I want to put, say, the rat into the green bank of the booster channel, I can do that. Likewise, if I go to the modulation effects, of which there are 31, including the other effects which are shared with the effects channel, I can say make it into a phaser, whatever I want. I can just chop and change everything to my heart's delight, because there are over 60 effects to choose from. So that's amazing. So I can do that on the computer, and then when I go back to my head, that's what will be in there. Next up, we can choose our chain. Now, as you can see here, there's a bunch of chains, which basically selects where each effect goes. So here I've got the booster in front of the amp, then modulation effect, delay, delay 2, which we'll talk about in a minute, and reverb are after the power section. Or I've got this one here, which is the booster, And then the mod in front of the amp, then booster, mod effect, yada, yada, yada. It's there for you to see, pick and choose whichever one you want for whichever patch you're using. So I can have a different chain for each one of these. It doesn't matter. Next up, we come to selections for each of the effects areas. So let's start with booster. And this enables me to fine tune, like deep dive, if you will. So if I call it rat, here are my parameters that I can mess with. Likewise in modulation, let's say I choose tremolo. These are all the buttons I can mess with to make it sound cooler. Effects, there are a total of 31 in here, and they're shared with the modulation area as well. And the reason for doing that is it enables you to have a chorus and a phaser if you so wish. And also on the chain side of things, you can put modulation in front of the amp and the effects in the loop, if you will. So you can chop and change. Next up is the delay section, and here are my parameters, and once again I can choose my delay type and then assign it to whatever color of the bank I want. Nice. Next up we come to delay 2, which you can set up via Tone Studio. So I can set a completely different echo up for my second delay, and just so you know, when you go to change, you can have one delay in front of the amp and the other one in the effects loop, or after it if you will, or you can have both in the effects loop, whatever you wish. Then we come to reverb. Once again, 5 to choose from, and here are my parameters. Very cool. Next, we come to solo, this area here, and I can activate it via here, or also there. As you saw there, I can switch it on here, or if I want, I can just set it up here. And here's the solo level I can set, so I can make my solos louder than my rhythm work. And as mentioned earlier, there's also a solo EQ that I can kick in, this thing right here, and I can put it in front of the amp or after the amp. So once again, before or after, very good. And there's all of these parameters I can mess with. It's basically a parametric EQ. So lots of stuff you can mess with there. Next, we come to contour, this bad boy right here. And I can select whichever contour I want right here. So 1, 2, or 3. And as you can see, the button is moving. So 1, 2, or 3. And there are 4 types for each one. And then I can do a frequency shift for each one. So what I suggest you do is just tweak, listen, and when you like something, keep it. And we've also got our tonal shape EQ button up here, which has green, red, and orange. We'll talk more about that in a minute. Right, I'm going to jump over pedal effects and get to 2 EQs, because this is pretty exciting. So I've got 2 EQs to choose from, a parametric EQ and a GE10, which is a 10-band graphic. And once again, I can put them before or after the amp, allowing me to do some really neat tone changing. And I switch it on via here. And I've also got a second one. So if I put one in front of the amp, I can put the other one after the amp. And I could have one as parametric, the other as the graphic. All good stuff. So lots of tonal tweaking there. Next up, one of my favorite features of Tone Studio for that high gain stuff, especially the noise suppressor or noise gate. I can set the threshold and release for each one of my high gain sounds and then save it. And then even when Tone Studio isn't plugged in, it will work when I'm using the amp. Excellent. Next up is the send and return of the effects loop. And we have 2 positions. After the amp, which is where it normally is, but also after the reverb, should I so wish. I normally leave it in post-amp though, and I can set the send and return levels accordingly, but this is also cool. I can select series or parallel, none more flexible. And then last but certainly not least on this fine row of buttons, I've got assign. And what this enables me to do is determine what each of the effects knobs does. So for example, on booster, I can set it to drive. On reverb, I can set it to reverb time. And the same with the expression pedal as well. Next up, we come to these 4 things up here. This one we already know because we're in editor. I'm going to go to system first just to show you what that's got. First up on system, we come to the line out setting, which is something we talked about earlier when looking at the back panel. Here we've got our line out air feel, which we selected as blend with the switch on the back, but once again we can go to record or live, but I like blend. Then next up is the custom setting that we can switch on right here. And we've got a choice of 2 microphones, mic 1 or mic 2. So I can select, say, a ribbon or a 57, and I can also set mic distance and mic position. Now let's go to global EQ. Here we have it, and you can set it to output or input or line out or speaker out, which gives you a massive amount of flexibility. And you've got your 3 settings here, and these show you how they're set up, and you can tweak accordingly. As you can see, the middle one is the 10-band graphic, the other two are parametrics, but you can switch them as you wish because you've got the choice here, parametric or GE10. Next up, let's skip right down to all data backup. And I can back up to file, and I can also restore from file, which is good to back up your stuff. Always do that. Next up, we've got Tone Central. And this is very cool. It's a library of stuff. For example, Thomas McLaughlin, the kid that was in the Steve Vai video all those years ago, brilliant player. He's got 8 we can choose from, so I'm just going to add these. And I've done that. Let's see what else we can steal here. There's a Katana Mark II Top 10 by James Ryan. A very good player, so let's click on that. Oh, he's got one called Just Shred and Thrashy and Gent. Has to be added. Now, where did those go, do I hear you say? Into my Librarian. And I can also drag my stuff into the Librarian as well. And then I can drag stuff out from there and write over some of my stuff. So I've just overwritten Angus with Gent. That means Gent is now my channel 2 in bank A. And I can do that with all of these and chop and change, yada, yada, yada. So really good stuff. And that in a nutshell is the cool thing that is the free BOSS Tone Studio for Katana Mark II. It really is a rabbit hole of wonderful tonal tweaking bliss. Just don't get lost in it, my friend. Come out for air and actually play. To be perfectly honest with you, as opposed to lying, I could easily spend an hour or more just geeking out over all the things Tone Studio allows you to do, but this video is already pretty long already. Plus, if you'd like to get a better idea of what Tone Studio does, you can do the following. You can download it for free and then run it on offline mode. Yep, you don't even have to own a Katana in order to check out the Tone Studio editing capabilities. Plus, of course, the Tone Central area from which you can download presets from other players too. Phew! Hopefully this video has whet your appetite to dive further into the Katana Mark II line, especially the artist head and its accompanying 2x12 Waza speaker-loaded cabinet. And let's not forget the totally free Tone Studio software as well. I don't mind admitting that I'm a huge fan of this line and I've been using the Katana Artist Combo in my videos for a long time now. I've also used the 100-watt Katana head to play gigs, and I've recorded with Katanas a lot too, using either the amp's line-out or recording out jacks. No miking necessary. For more information on the Artist Mark II head and its accompanying 2x12 cabinet, plus all the latest BOSS Katana offerings, please go to Sweetwater.com, or better still, call your friendly sales engineer. That said, I'm out of here. See ya! Thank you so very much for watching. Please don't forget to like, comment, nicely of course please, and also subscribe. Click here for more videos like this, or go to Sweetwater.com for all your music instrument and pro audio needs. Goodbye.